Dragon Quest returns. Co-developed by Square Enix and ArtDink, Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake gives us a chance to play this beloved third entry in the series, all rebuilt on Unreal Engine 4. Graphically, the HD-2D approach here, of course, builds on Square Enix's experience with its two Octopath Traveler titles and Triangle Strategy. It's a recipe that works, and indeed, Dragon Quests I and II are also set to receive remakes in the same style, with those two releasing as a pair in 2025. For Dragon Quest III today though, the result is this blend of high quality sprite work and modern rendering techniques, a hybrid approach that keeps the series' classic pixel art in place for its characters, running atop polygonal 3D environments that react to dynamic lighting and shadows. Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake releases today, and in this video brought to you by Digital Foundry and Square Enix, I had a chance to look at the PC version, shown here, fully maxed out at 4K resolution and high settings. So to the first question, why release Dragon Quest III as the first of these HD-2D style remakes ahead of Dragon Quests I and II? Apart from Dragon Quest III being something of a milestone for its day in introducing key gameplay mechanics to the series, it also makes the most narrative sense to start here. In short, the very first three Dragon Quest games come as a trio, called the Erdrick Trilogy. However, the third game's events precede Dragon Quest I and II. It lays the groundwork for an overarching story, and so, despite its out-of-order release, Dragon Quest III presents as the first chronological part of the saga. Its tale begins simply enough too. You play as the child of the great warrior Ortega, who many years ago perished in a fight with the archfiend Baramos. On your 16th birthday, the region's king nominates you to continue that mission and rid the world of Baramos' evil. En route on your adventure, you'll of course receive many more quests, detours, across which Dragon Quest III perfectly encapsulates the series' upbeat, plucky charm, peppered as it is with sinister-looking creatures in battle. All of which, for an HD-2D remake, makes this an ideal jumping-on point for newcomers. Let's flash back now to see the game's early 8-bit origins for a moment. Released in Japan in 1988 and then in North America in 1992 as Dragon Warrior 3 on the Nintendo Entertainment System, the game made several big innovations for the series. First of all, it's notable for introducing the vocation system, a staple for the franchise going forward, allowing you to designate a role to any of your party members between warriors, mages, thieves, and many more. Next, it was the first Dragon Quest, or Dragon Warrior in the US, to include a dynamic time of day. This was a huge deal for an NES title, allowing each passing step on the world map to gradually shift you from day to night, altering the discoverable items, enemy encounters, and events. And finally, this third release offered a significantly bigger, more open world to explore than the first two games. Talking on the game's many subsequent releases, Dragon Quest III has this distinction of being the subject of several remakes. Perhaps most notably, it was remade on Nintendo's Super Famicom in 1996, even if only for the Japanese market. Utilizing the experience from Dragon Quest VI, developer Heartbeat rebuilt the game with higher resolution, higher color bit depth sprites, and environment tiles than was previously possible. Enemy attacks now actually animated, and the remake added detailed backdrops while in battle view, rather than static enemy sprites on top of a black background. Likewise, movement speed was faster in towns and dungeons. It was an extensive remake for its day, and even introduced new minigames, collectible medals, and a dream sequence at the start, a quiz of sorts that affected your hero's personality trait. Many of these extras stay in place for the HD-2D remake today. As an aside, and perhaps just as remarkably, in 2000, Dragon Quest III was remade all over again for Game Boy Color, with this version releasing in North America under the Dragon Warrior 3 name again in 2001. Considered an impossible port, the Game Boy Color version kept a surprising number of the Super Famicom version's extras, including its smooth enemy attack animations. Inevitably, the Game Boy Color's hardware limits did incur some visual cutbacks though, notably the absence of battle backgrounds. But still, it was otherwise feature complete, and a remarkable feat of engineering for its time. Today then, Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake marks the game's next major visual overhaul. Just as with Octopath Traveler, the hybrid visual style achieved on Unreal Engine 4 here has a few key highlights. Chiefly, to emphasize our character's position in a 3D space, a bokeh depth of field effect is used to simulate the properties of a camera lens. The game's camera hangs especially low on the world map to show it off, with this shallow focus catching the glint of the ocean waves on the horizon, plus dust drifting across the foreground. Next, we have the lighting and shadows. Despite characters presenting as 2D sprites here, the actual logic for shadows still applies to them as if they were 3D objects in a 3D space. The result being, every light source in the scene creates a long shadow stemming from each party member, backed by UE4's ambient occlusion for indirect shade. Elsewhere, the HD-2D remake goes the extra mile to animate its world. Grass and trees sway on the overworld, god rays flitter from the dusk sun, while clouds dynamically cast shadows to the ground. Materials are suitably varied too, from the mosaic flooring of the battle arena to the sculptures of the castle's water fountains. Again, it's a fusion of old and new that genuinely works as an aesthetic. The HD-2D remake doesn't stop at visual upgrades. There's also a push to add new areas, numerous quality of life improvements, and even include voice work. Indeed, key story beats are now delivered with recorded dialogue, while critical moves in battle are also voiced. In terms of new gameplay features, there's also the addition of the Monster Wrangler vocation. Dragon Quest III allows you to befriend monsters encountered across the world, but adding a monster wrangler to the party increases that chance of a successful recruitment, which in turn earns them new abilities. To complement this, the HD-2D remake offers a revamped monster arena where you're able to command a team of monsters in a tournament for prizes. Beyond this, the HD-2D remake's core gameplay loop stays faithful to its 8-bit lineage right down to its turn-based battles. Inviting new players into the experience is a huge part of the remake's mission though, and to that end, a string of quality of life tweaks are in place here. Mostly, these remove any friction there might be in understanding where to go or how its mechanics work. We get an updated and clean UI with a new tutorial menu, plus an optional map indicator to point players towards the next objective. The remake adds features we might also take for granted in today's RPGs, such as autosaving after entering towns and beating enemies. There's also a rather smart auto-battle function in place now, letting us direct each party member with general commands for all-out attack, a focus on healing, or prioritizing defense. It's a risky play at times, especially against a boss, but for regular foes, it does remove the worry of inputting every command. And of course, if you're extra confident, it's now possible to hasten the battle speed. Crucially, many of these tweaks are only additive to the experience. They serve the hardened RPG fan craving the more traditional playthrough, and it does remain a challenge, but also newcomers in need of some extra guidance. Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake is as faithful to the original spirit as you'd hope, while also going to great lengths to welcome in new fans. As a remake, there's a lot being added here. Between the visual upgrades, the new areas, and quality of life upgrades, it only builds upon Dragon Quest III's long storied history. It also sets up the legacy, the narrative groundwork for what will follow in future remakes for Dragon Quests I and II. Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake is available now on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, S, Microsoft Windows, and Steam. But that's all from me today. If you did enjoy this video in any way, feel free to like or subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell for instant notifications as any new video lands. To get a high quality version of this video and many more, check out our Patreon at digitalfoundry.net, and to get in touch directly, you know where to find me. But from me for now, thanks for watching.